Hi there, I'm James and today I'm going to be starting my rather late Christmas series on a quick intro to a few programming languages. Now we're going to be starting off with F#, which is part of the .NET framework. So to work in F#, we're going to begin by using Microsoft Visual Studio. As you can see here, I'm using the release candidate for Visual Studio 2017. F# is a very interesting language, and linguistically it's quite similar to Python and not very similar to some other languages in the .NET framework such as the VB languages or C#. Generally speaking, it's quite easy to manipulate data in F#. It's very easy to manipulate data in F# and do background tasks, but foreground tasks are probably best left to a more object-oriented language or an event-driven language such as C#, VB, etc. Without any further ado, let's just jump straight into it. So, for our first application, we're going to create a new project. So, I'm going to hit More Project Templates. We're going to scroll down to Visual F#. If you don't have Visual F# in the list, you'll need to install Visual F# on your machine. You can get a quick guide to do that if you just Google it. I'm not going to go into that at the moment. So, we're going to start with a console application. It's the most simple and easy type of application to create. Now, our program, as it will, that we'll be creating has a brief. So our first program is going to be a simple program to run in the background. And it's going to be doing some basic mathematical operations for the user. Now, we're going to start off by giving it a name. I'm going to call it Episode 1. I can't spell either. Episode 1. Just because, well, it'll help me keep my files in order. I'm going to hit OK. It might take a minute to load up the program, and this is because Visual Studio builds the basic structure of the program for you as it creates it. So here we see a small section of code already. Now just to run through what we have two of these here. Anything in F# beginning with 2 slashes is a single line comment. Which you can use within your code to comment on it line by line. Very useful. F# also has the feature for multi-line comments, which you'll be used to seeing in languages such as C++. Simple way of doing this is an opening bracket followed by an asterisk to begin the comment, and then when you're done you can end it with another asterisk and then a closing bracket. Okay? So, we're going to start off by giving some module name. Now this will be more important when you're building more complex applications or perhaps applications that use multiple files. And module names can be used to refer to each file or each part of the application bit by bit. Obviously it's not necessary at this point, however it is useful. So we're going to say module, and let's just call it Episode 1. Your module name is one word, by the way. Okay, so let's begin by looking at this bit here. We have here an entry point. Entry point is as it says. In other languages you'll be used to a main procedure or a main function. In languages such as C#, you have your void main. Same with C. In Pascal you have begin and end, etc. This is entry point is where the program begins running. Okay. So we have here let main argv equal. Now I'm going to stop you there and talk through this. Let declare is the word used to declare a function. Main is the name of it. It's your main function. And argv is stating that it takes arguments. This is what you'll be used to in other .NET languages. I'm not going to go into that in further detail at the moment. We have here the next line, printfn %a argv. And this just prints out the value of the argument that it takes. I'm going to change this up a bit, and you'll see why in a minute. So I'm now going to start by using another function I'm going to start by using another function that we'll create, and I'm going to call that main program. Now, I'll talk about this in a minute. For the time being, just accept that as it is. This last line, like in C or other memory managed languages, it returns an integer to exit. So here we're going to declare the function that we've just created. So we're going to say let main prog. Because it's a function, it takes values. We've not got any values for it at the moment. Equal. And then we're going to drop down a line and indent. Unlike in certain languages where you may have a begin and end or opening and closing braces, F# simply uses indents for its syntactic points. So I'm going to start off with a simple print line. So in F# to do that, it's print fn. I don't know why. I would think it's because it runs as a function in some predefined module. And we're just going to parse a string as we normally would in .NET languages. It is the law, obviously, in your first program that you must say hello world. Going to stick a line break in there, and we're going to ask the user to do something. So we'll say please input an integer. Okay. You'll notice that unlike certain modern languages where you'd have something to state the end of the line, you don't in this. It's similar to VB in that manner. There's no like semicolons at the end of a line statement. You just simply finish the line. So we're going to say we now want a variable. Now variables in F#, awkwardly enough, are managed in the same manner as functions, just like they are in C. So we say let, let's call it input. Sorry, my notes are down there. Give it a value. And we've got printfn to print. So we've got scanfn to scan in. And this is just like I did before, and we'll talk about this in a moment. Oh, it's not responding. Yeah. Okay, so you see here we have an issue. The block following this list is unfinished. And that's because it doesn't understand what I'm trying to tell it to do. Scanfn isn't actually a function in F#. I was incorrect. I just haven't read my notes properly. F# doesn't have a default scanning mechanism. You've got to use the .NET scanning mechanism. What most F# developers will do is define a scanning mechanism, like I have with scanfn there. I'm going to say let scanfn equal, and I'm going to call the .NET scanning mechanism, which is system.console.readline as a function. And that one does have a semicolon. Okay. So we have here this little symbol. Sort of looks like a pointer pointing that way, and this tells it what it's going to do with the input. So here, when we call this, we have ignore, which is very odd. And what it's essentially saying is this procedure, this function, sorry, is eventually going to return a value. I don't care what it is. Here we've got this is eventually going to return a value, parse it as an int32, parse it as a 32-bit integer. Now, I'm going to add in an extra library here that will make all of our lives a bit easier in the long run. Now, to add in a library in F#, use the open command, and this one is called system. Okay. Now we'll ignore these little red lines later. Yeah, we'll ignore these little red lines until later, and then we'll go into them in a bit more detail. So now this main prog function is obviously going to need to close out eventually. If we don't have anything in there to keep scanning, someone's going to put in their input, and then it's going to end the program completely, because it will return to the 0 integer code at the bottom of the main function. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do an ignored scanfn. So scanfn ignore. Okay. And finally, we're going to finish this all off, closing it all by returning a value of 0. Now, we've got a slight issue here in that we've used this operator, then we've used it again. We've not actually done anything with it, and F# will always pick up on that, and it's always going to get really annoyed when you do that. So we're going to take input, which is what you've used on the original line, and we're going to add it into another function. And this function we're going to declare as an inline function. Okay, so we're going to begin by calling the function, and I'm going to call it mathEngine, because it does some maths. And I'm going to send it a value input as a parameter. So here we've got to say let mathEngine. It's terrible having to spell on camera. And we've got to create a value for the parameter. That value I'm going to call x. Always a good programming paradigm. Give all your variables random names every time, so no one can ever read your code. If it was hard to write, it should be hard to read, right? Maybe not. I'm going to call it x for the time being. Just because it's a mathematical convention, I'll just slip that in there. I'm not that bad a programmer. It's a mathematical convention. And I'm going to say it's got to do something. And what it's going to do is it's going to printfn. And this uses the same, how would you say, the same string parsing syntax as you would find in C. So when you're using a number, it's %d. Don't ask, it just is. So we've got %d, and we're going to square it. %d squared is, and again, I can't spell, is, and again, %d because we're using another number. And now after that, we're going to have a space, and then we're going to put in the values. So that's x and x squared, which is obviously x star x, x multiplied by x. To make this even simpler, I'm going to create a better way of squaring. So I'm going to create a square function, a function that will square. So I'm going to say let square equal, let's square x, because you need to send it a value, equal x multiplied by x. Okay, and now all I've got to do is replace this with square x. X. So we're getting somewhere now, but we still have a couple of issues in our code. So what have I done wrong? This value is not a function and cannot be applied. And I presume we have the same here, scanfn What have I done? Oh, I know what I've done. It's a function, it needs a value. There you go. And again, we have a line here. Expects to have type unit but has type string. It should be ignoring that. Right, well, this is fascinating. Okay, I'm going to assume that that's a bug. And I'm going to open another file, close this one, open it again. There you go, it was a bug in visuals. No, okay, it's come back. Expects to have type unit, but it has type string. No, it doesn't. Let main prog. There we go. Well, what can I tell you? This all worked before, but it doesn't now. I'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, I've gotten back to you. I just got a bit confused. It should be main prog X here, not main prog open brackets and close brackets. Okay, I'm back. It seems for some reason that Visual Studio A didn't like my module. I don't know why. That's new. And B, it seems that it will always tell you the project is out of date no matter what. If you keep running it, eventually it will stop giving you the error message. Anyway, it says, hello world, please input an integer, which is what we expected. My integer is 33. 33 squared is 1089, which off the top of my head, yeah, that sounds right. And that's our app. Our app is built. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you look forward to next time. And that's our app. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you look forward to next time where we'll be doing a slightly more complex app in C#. Thanks for watching.